manned spacecraft. It's really special. I want to personally salute and congratulate Commander Reed Weissman, Pilot Victor Glover, Mission Specialist Christina Koch, and Jeremy Hansen. And I also want to thank the entire amazing team at NASA, headed by Jared, who's a very special guy, by the way. And you all made this day possible, and you've really inspired the entire world. Really, everybody's watching. They find it incredible. I just watched you go to the back of the moon, and people haven't been there in a long time, we can say, but it's going to be more and more prevalent because we're going to be doing a lot of traveling, and then you're going to ultimately do the whole big trip to Mars, and that's going to be very exciting. So you look at, we had no astronaut has been to the moon since the days of Apollo program. The Apollo program was also very special, but that was 50 years ago, and at long last, America is back, and America is back in many ways stronger than ever before. We're the hottest country anywhere in the world. The Artemis crew flew in the most powerful rocket NASA has ever made, ever launched, traveled over 250,000 miles, broke the distance record set by the legendary Apollo 13. And America is a frontier nation, and the 4 brave astronauts of Artemis 2 are a modern day, you really are modern day pioneers, all of you. And one of them happens to be a neighbor. You know who that is, right? You have a special person over there, a neighbor, and we like our neighbor. Your mission paves the way for America's return to the lunar surface very soon. We're going all out. We're doing everything we can, and it's headed up by Jared. We'll plant our flag once again, and this time we won't just leave footprints. We'll establish a permanent presence on the moon, and we'll push on to Mars. That'll be very exciting. I'm waiting for that so much. I'd love to be here, but maybe we won't quite make it in terms of timing, but we will be up in the moon, and that's going to happen soon. So America will be second to none in space and everything else that we're doing, and we will continue to lead the whole thing into the stars, this incredible journey into the stars. So I just wanted, it's an honor to speak to you, and I wanted to congratulate each and every one of you. And tell me, what is the most unforgettable part of this really historic day? The whole world is watching and listening. Please tell me.
President, this call is certainly special to all of us, and we really have a lot of faith in our administrator, Jared Isaacman, who is with you. We appreciate his leadership in NASA and in the international community. We are doing great things, and we are proud to be a part of it. I have to tell you, as we came around the near side of the moon, seeing all the sights that we've seen from Earth for all of our lives, but we're seeing them from a different perspective, and then we started to get a glimpse of the and we saw sites, Oriental sites that no human has ever seen before, not even in Apollo, and that was amazing for us. And then the surprise of the day, we just came out of an eclipse where the sun, moon, and the entire dark moon, about that big, right out the window that we were watching. We could see the corona of the sun, and then we could see the planet train line up, and we at Mars, and all of us commented how excited we are to watch this nation and this planet become a 2-planet species.
That is fantastic. You know, I had a decision to make in my first term, and the decision is, what are we going to do at NASA? Are we going to have it be revived, or are we going to close it down? And I had very little hesitation, and it's really great to have somebody like Jared involved because he really makes it much easier for me. But it was not even a question in my own mind. We've spent what we had to do, and then of course we have Space Force, and Space Force is very much related to what you're doing, and that was my baby. That was a very important one, and it'll turn out to be truly one of the most important, I believe, decisions I've ever made. So we're very proud of Space Force, and we're very proud of all of you. Does anybody else have anything to say? A lot of people listening.
Mr. President. To be here with you speaking about our incredible day today. I think one of the biggest highlights was coming back from the far side of the moon and having the first glimpses of planet Earth again after being out of communication for about 45 minutes. It really just reminds you what a special place we have and how important it is for our nation to lead and not follow in exploring deep space.
I'd like to ask, what was your feeling when you had no communication, zero communication? All of a sudden it was cut off by, obviously, your very special location. What was your feeling when you had no communication? A little bit different, perhaps.
Yes, Mr. President, it was I said a little prayer, but then I had to keep rolling. I was actually recording scientific observations of the far side of the moon. You know, that is actually the time when we were the farthest and the closest to the moon. And so we were really able to make some of our most detailed observations of the far side of the moon up close. And so we were busy up here working really hard. And I must say, it was actually quite nice.
Did you see a difference, a big difference, between the far side of the moon and the near side of the moon? Was there a difference in feel or difference in look? What did you see?
Well, Mr. President, we certainly did, and our science team really set us up well to understand what they thought we might see. And the gravitational pull of the Earth has had a profound effect on the near side of the moon, changing all those dark mares, those dark patches of the moon you see from Earth. It's very different on the far side. While you see some small patches of those mare in deep craters, it's very much absent on that side, so that's really neat. And while I have the microphone, sir, I just want to thank you on behalf of Canada. The space leadership you spoke of from America truly is extraordinary. I've said this many times before. A nation that leads like that and creates and sets big goals for humanity that brings other countries along with it is truly incredible. And I know that's a very intentional, not a necessary decision, intentional decision to lead by example and to allow other countries like Canada to share our gifts and help you achieve these mutually beneficial goals, like establishing a presence on the moon and eventually going to Mars. And Canadians are so proud to be a part of this program.
Well, I have to say I spoke to a very special person, Wayne Gretzky, who I think you know, the great one. And I spoke to your Prime Minister and many other friends I have in Canada. They are so proud of you. And you have a lot of courage. I'm not sure if they'd want to do that. I'm not even sure if the great one would want to do that, to be honest with you. But you have a lot of courage doing what you're doing, a lot of bravery and a lot of genius. But they're very, very proud of you.
Administrator Alex, I'm going to just get a quick comm check, make sure you guys are still on the line and we didn't have a handover.
I am. Yes, I am.
And integrity. And back over to you, Mr. President.
Yeah, I think we might have gotten cut off. It is a long distance. It's a long ways. The reception's been great. There's a little bit of about a 9-second delay, but no, I just had a statement for, I don't know what you heard, but I was just saying they're very proud of your brilliant person from Canada on the ship. And Wayne Gretzky is a great friend of mine, and he's very proud of him. And the Prime Minister I spoke to, they're very, very honored that you have a courageous person from Canada. You have a lot of courageous people from Canada, so it was very nice. I'm not sure if you heard me say that, but it was very nice.
Yes, Mr. President, we heard that, and we do love our Jeremy Hansen. We love all our Canadian astronauts, Jenny Gibbons, Josh Kutrick. They're just great people, and they're such a welcome addition to our Corps.
Great. Well, I really look forward to, when we can, I look forward to seeing you in the Oval Office. I'll ask Jared to bring you over, and I'll ask for your autograph, because I don't really ask for autographs much, but you deserve that. You really are something. Everybody's talking about this. And I look forward to having you in the Oval Office at the White House, and we will celebrate your incredible achievements and triumphs. This is big. This is really big stuff. The whole world is talking about it. And if you have the time, I will certainly find the time. I've been pretty busy also, as you know, but I will absolutely find the time, and we'll get together, and I'm going to be giving you a big salute on behalf of the American people and beyond that.
Thank you for that, Mr. President. And when you want us, we will be there. And thank you for your leadership. Thank you to Jared for his leadership. Really, thank you for taking the time out today to visit NASA. It's really special for us, but it's really special for the team on the ground. A whole team of people all around the world pulled this off, and we just want to say thank you to all of you for this. It is the thrill and honor of a lifetime to have been on this journey. Today was amazing, but this 3-year journey has been amazing, and it was made possible by the American people and the Canadian people, and we're so grateful to you all. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much. And Jared, congratulations. We'll see you soon. And I know that you have Mars very much in your mind, so we'll start thinking about that pretty soon, I think. And thank you. Congratulations to everybody. I'll see you at the Oval Office.
Thank you for your time, Mr. President. It's been an honor.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye.
Integrity. This is Houston ACR. That concludes the event. Thank you.
Thank you to all participants. Integrity, we are now resuming operational audio communications. Integrity Houston, great job on the event. Just a heads up, we are on track to start the next event on time at 4:15.
Okay, sounds great. We'll be ready.
This is Artemis Mission Control in Houston, Texas. We just had that public affairs event with President Donald Trump and the crew on board the Orion spacecraft. And coming up in about 10 minutes, there will be another public affairs event. That event taking place at a mission elapsed time of 5 days, 4 hours, and 15 minutes. Currently on your screen, you're seeing a look at the Artemis real-time orbit website, which provides updates on the velocity as well as the distance of the Orion spacecraft from both Earth and the Moon. The Orion spacecraft and its crew, that crew including Reed Wiseman, Victor Glover, Christina Cook, and Jeremy Hansen, are currently about 250,000 miles away from the Earth, and that distance is starting to become smaller as they are now on the return leg of their journey. And they are about 9,300 miles away from the Moon. They made their close approach to the Moon.
Integrity Houston with a question about fan speed.
Go ahead.
Hey, Reed, we were wondering if this adjusted fan speed is something that you would like to keep going forward, or if it was just a specific change request for the events this evening.
Certainly for PAO events, this is an ideal fan speed. If you're willing to give us this fan speed for routine habitability, I think we would take it and try it for a while.
And Reed, we are able to support keeping the fan speed in this config. Happy to keep it here to collect data.
Okay, you got 4 happy astronauts up here. We'll take it. Obviously, when we go to exercise, we'll need to bump it up, but I think for quiescent living, this will be great.
We copy, and we love seeing those smiles.
integrity for docking camera.
Go ahead.
Just want to make sure we have the config you're expecting. I have the dual camera bracket is installed, the window shade is closed, and the docking camera is stowed in its Alpha 3 storage area.
That's a good config.
Thank you.
And while I've got you, we are 3 minutes out from an on-time start of the next event.
This is Artemis Mission Control in Houston, Texas. You can see a live look of the Artemis 2 crew inside the Orion spacecraft cabin as they prepare for another public affairs downlink event. There on your screen is CSA astronaut Jeremy Hansen along with NASA astronaut Reed Wiseman and NASA astronaut Victor Glover popping up. Earlier today, the crew completed their lunar flyby observation period, during which the Orion spacecraft and its crew passed approximately 4,000 to 6,000 miles from the moon and provided the astronauts with a full disk view of the lunar surface. And from that higher vantage point, the astronauts were able to observe both poles and large-scale geological features in a single view. Towards the tail end of that observation period, they also were able to see an eclipse. And that eclipse period lasted about an hour and was when the sun was hidden from view behind the opposite side of the moon from the perspective of Orion. Since then, the crew has been working to clean up some of their observations and transfer some of the data and imagery down to the ground to begin processing, and the science team will take a look at that imagery as it comes down ahead of a post-lunar flyby conference tomorrow with the crew following their sleep period. Now we are standing by for a second public affairs event taking place in about a minute.
Integrity, this is Houston. Are you ready for the event?
Houston, Integrity is ready for the event.
Administrator Isaacman, this is Mission Control Houston. Please call Integrity for a voice check.
Integrity, Jared Isaacman, comm check.
Administrator Isaacman, we've got you loud and clear up here.
I've got you loud and clear, and let's see if we can top that last PO event. That was pretty special. So we are going to spend the next 20 minutes doing Q&A from a number of questions that have been submitted, and we are going to start with one from me. You all have spent years preparing for this moment and imagining what it must be like when you look down at the moon, at the lunar surface. What has surprised you all that you did not anticipate?
Go ahead.
No.
It's on.
Administrator, great to chat with you. Just something that just shocked me because really using imagery and just the three-dimensionality of it. You know from your experience of seeing the Earth from space how it just seems different, and you look out in depth of things, and when we were on the far side of the moon looking back at Earth, it was just so obvious. You had this sphere out in front of you of the moon in this three-dimensional. You really felt like you weren't in a capsule. You'd been transported to the far side of the moon, and it really just bent your mind. It was an extraordinary human experience. I'm so grateful for it.
Integrity, Jared, anyone else want to answer that one?
You know, we had an amazing launch. The SLS is quite a powerful rocket, and got us into a 1,200 by, eventually a 100-mile orbit, and clearly power and speed, and then we did our translunar injection, and we were going quite fast. And so with all of that speed, though, it still took us days to get here. And so the scope of all of the things to a 321-foot tall rocket was amazing. It just puts the power required to do this in perspective. But then even with all that power and to get to those velocities, it still took us days. And the breadth of the distance we had to cover. Watching the distance from Earth count up and the distance from the moon count down was one of the most surprising things I've enjoyed.
Well, as I was trying to formulate an answer, at first I anything because there are so many things to choose from. I'll try to just narrow it down, but I'm going to go with something we did yesterday, a manual flight test objective, where we just basically got to sit at the vehicle. It was Jeremy and I this time, and just drive around using the rotational hand controller, basically just drive it with the stick, and how well it handled, how tight the control algorithms were, and watching it respond when we actually degraded it on purpose by going into 3 degrees of freedom control, by actually inhibiting some of the jets, which even though we have jet redundancy, of course, for each other in these complicated algorithms. So it was just amazing to be in a deep spacecraft and just be flying it around by hand. The one other thing I'll say, how fast it has gone by. I'm not ready to go home. I can't believe that something this cramped of quarters can fly by and still be fun every single minute.
And I'll just close out with, I think just scale, Jared, is the thing that is just blowing my mind. You flew Polaris Dawn to some amazing apogee numbers, and on the International Space Station, we're 250 nautical miles up, and that's the most beautiful view I think a human could ever experience. And we are dealing with numbers that are 250,000 miles, and every time Mission Control points this vehicle either at the moon or at Earth, and it reminds me every day that humans have to go, we've got to explore, we got to go further to expand our knowledge, expand our horizons. And every time we take another step forward, it makes the world seem a little bit smaller and a little bit more manageable. And just putting these numbers in perspective, it is impossible as a human to look at these displays and comprehend them. But here we are, and NASA is doing this, an international team is doing this, and they're doing it very well.
Excellent words, Integrity. So certainly a very wild insertion orbit. I can imagine the contrast between perigee and apogee, the scale of it all, the 3D, seeing the moon come alive, and then certainly manual control. Well, every Dragon crew for the last 5 years is very jealous on that. Okay, so we're going to questions here. This one, the Artemis II crew, inspire all of us, but what inspires you?
I think as you get older, your answer to that question changes a lot. Certainly when I was a young boy and a young man, just seeing an airplane flying overhead, to me, that really lit a fire in me. And then I think when you reach your middle age, it is interesting to watch leadership throughout the world kind of change the course of human. You can watch that unfold. And now now that I'm just a little bit over 50, you'll be there soon. Now that I'm just a little bit over 50, I mean, it all ties back to just family, and you understand just how much the people that you surround yourself with, and that is really every night when you go to bed, that's really what you end up thinking. At least that's what I end up thinking.
Thank you. All right, so here's a question. It's a good one. So for the Artemis 3 crew, what is the advice you would pass along for the next astronauts that will go in Orion?
That's a great question, Jared. We've actually been thinking about the Artemis 3 crew since we were assigned as the Artemis 2 crew. It was the beginning of how we came up with how we wanted to fly this mission, how we wanted to buy down risk for the program, and values as a crew. And so, over the course of these 3 years, we've taken a lot of notes. So we've almost got a book to hand them. But I think a few practical things, just sitting here that we've been living for the past 6 days, how you pack is a huge impact to how you will live on the journey. And so things like food and your hygiene products, and then you know what's going on with our waste management system, the technology that we have, practicing that and being familiar with that and being prepared mentally. I used it on the space station. I used it at home in training, but I'll be honest, I wasn't really prepared to have to use it for over half the mission. And but we adapt and overcome, and so I can't wait to talk to that crew.
I'm glad you said it, or else I was. We definitely have to fix some of the plumbing. Okay, this question is from Merriam-Webster. So wordy one here. So you are going to be, well, you've already surpassed more than 250,000 miles from Earth, farther than any human has gone before. So what are some words that come to mind when you try to wrap your mind around this very unique experience?
I'll be honest with you, the main word, because superlatives just don't do it justice, is humility. We would never be here if it weren't for so many people that came before us, starting with Neil Armstrong, Katherine Johnson, Dorothy Vaughan, civil rights movement leaders, everyone who worked on this spacecraft. Before we got here in our 3 years of training, we went all over the country and even to our European and Canadian partners to see the people who have put their hands on this hardware, the millions of parts from every valve, to this entire thing, the people that put on harnesses every day to rig it up in the VAB. They all passed the record. We definitely didn't pass the record up here alone.
So this is actually very similar to the question the President of the United States asked just a brief bit ago. But during the quiet moments on your journey, when you were out of contact with everyone here on Earth, what were some of the thoughts that tended to occupy your mind most?
Yeah, as Victor said earlier, when we were on the far side of the moon and out of contact with planet Earth, we all knew it, and it was a milestone. We saw Earth disappear, the Earth set. But we were so busy with the science, and we have such faith in our vehicle integrity, such faith in mission control, that we were just at complete peace and just doing our job. And just trying to do a good job to collect as much science data as we could while we were on the far side of the moon. And we were just giddy in here, like of our lives.
He's being a bit humble, but as soon as we went out of comm with planet Earth, we did have maple cookies. As we just gathered together for about 30 seconds, each one of us had a maple cream cookie, and then right back into the science. But we had to take a moment to honor that time going behind Earth, and it was going behind the moon and out of touch with Earth, and that was a very surreal moment for this crew.
Copy that. Copy good maple cookies on the far side. And how has this journey changed? How has this journey already changed the way you see our home planet and humanity's future among the stars?
There's so many directions I think we could go with that, and I just, I think that there's, global, but I think real impact is local, and is to see the Earth as an entire thing and look at it, this system, and to see it all in once. But my daughters, and just the things that we can impact directly, the people that I can touch, that I can speak to, hug, and show love and gratitude toward, is the thing that I think is going to change and last. And but you also talked about the future that we're going to have in the stars, and this mission, I think we swung for the fence and launched on our first try after learning a lot earlier this year. But I think it set the stage for us to go out and continue to swing for the fence hard in our Orion SLS and ground systems programs to go and get the next one teed up so that crew can knock it off out of the park. And so I have huge expectations for what's coming next.
Good words. Are you feeling homesick for Earth?
I will tell you, last in my eyes, I did start thinking about getting home. It's not homesickness at all, but the first time probably in 3 years, I let my mind get past the moon and back towards home, and I had to catch myself right there. You're an operator just like we are, and that is the place to be when you're up here. We got to look one step ahead. What's next? What's our next burn? How are we setting up our trajectory to get home? And we are going to do that. We are locked in, and we are definitely excited for the second half of this mission. And we are on guard. We are first crew to fly this vehicle. We are ready for any contingency in any scenario, and we are going to stay locked in every second until we are back on that Navy ship and then home reunited with our families.
And copy that. Astronauts like being in space. That checks out. Okay, there's a lot of questions from the space photography community. How are the pictures going so far?
Well, we all love getting our hands on cameras and our eyes behind the lens here, because we're just trying to share the incredible things that we're seeing, and that's obviously the best way we can try to do that. I've been into night sky photography for a long time, and so this is really a dream come true for me. I have thought specifically to that community, the time lapses I've been trying to get, those are a little tougher because we have a very dynamic vehicle. It's not like being on ISS where you can get the city lights below and the auroras and the spinning stars around the North Star. There's a lot going on. So, but what we got to matter is out of this world. When we viewed that eclipse, that was the one time we all said, we literally cannot capture this with a camera. Everything else, I think we've really put our hearts and minds into making sure we understand so that we can bring that home to everyone. But having to set the low light features for Earthshine on the moon while it's an eclipse, that was a new one. I had to dig deep in my book for that one.
And thanks for the iPhones. They've been working great.
Very glad to hear that. And there are a couple billion people back here on Earth that are extremely excited to look at the imagery you've captured up there. Okay, well, I want to thank you all. Integrity. So Reed, Victor, Christina, Jeremy, on behalf of NASA and space-loving people across the world, thank you for taking us with you to the moon. Thank you for your courage all of your beautiful words that we've heard. You represent the absolute best of us. We are proud of you, and we look forward to welcoming you back safely to the good Earth very soon. Godspeed, and go Artemis 2.
Thank you so much, Administrator. We are just proud to be a part of this team, doing our work every day, and we are supported by a huge world of humans, and we are just honored to be a part of that. Thank you.
We'll see you soon.
Integrity, this is Houston ACR. That concludes the event. Thank you.
Thank you to all participants. Integrity, we are now resuming operational audio comm.
This is Artemis Mission Control in Houston, Texas. That second public affairs event with NASA Administrator Isaacman and the crew on board the Orion spacecraft named Integrity now complete, and there on your screen you're seeing a live view from the Orion spacecraft, specifically from the camera on its solar array wings, and you can see a crescent Earth there. The crew is now officially on the return leg of their journey, and Earth is now their target, with that splashdown targeted for April 10th. This is Mission Control Houston inside the Artemis Flight Control Room as the lunar flyby coverage is coming to a close. You can see a final look there of the Orion spacecraft and that crescent moon in the distance. The Artemis 2 crew inside the Orion spacecraft named Integrity lifted off atop the Space Launch System rocket on Wednesday, April 1st from NASA's Kennedy Space Center in Florida. This crew is the first to live and work inside the Orion spacecraft. And about 25 hours after launch, Orion conducted its TLI, or translunar injection burn, which committed Orion to departing high Earth orbit and set us up for today's flyby. TLI also served as the spacecraft's deorbit burn as it slingshot Orion around the moon and set the crew on its free return trajectory, with that splashdown slated for Friday, April 10th. Last night, on flight day 5, the crew entered the lunar sphere of influence, the point at which the pull of the moon's gravity became stronger than the pull of Earth's gravity, and the crew will remain in this lunar sphere of influence until about 12:25 p.m. Central, 1:25 p.m. Eastern on April 7th. Today, the crew spent the majority of their day making science observations and capturing imagery as part of the lunar flyby, during which Orion and its crew passed approximately 4,000 to 6,000 miles from the moon and provided the crew with a full disk view of the lunar surface. From that higher vantage point, the crew was able to observe both poles and large-scale geologic features in a single view, and the Artemis II crew also became the first humans to directly observe certain far-side regions of the moon with unaided eyes. During the lunar flyby, the crew also surpassed the Apollo 13 distance record and made that farthest distance from the Earth during their mission at a distance of 252,756 miles away from Earth.
Integrity Houston with 2 updates.
Houston, go ahead with the updates.
Hey, Victor, again, awesome job on both of those events. The team down here really enjoyed following along. I've got 2 sync items for you. The first is that based on ground schedules, we'd like to pull your flight director conference up before your PMC, so we'll start the flight director conference at the time the PMC is currently scheduled. And the second item is just following up on the DU-1 caution. We believe this is a recurrence of what we saw with DU-2 earlier in the mission. It's back up, and it's ready for you to reconfigure displays as you wish. And I see you have that in work.
Okay, great. We would love a main and secondary dump line status, or really the main line.
Check in. And Reed, back with you on the dump lines. The main dump is open, and it's proceeding very slowly, but the secondary is still configured and go for use.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
And this is Artemis Mission Control. Some communication there between NASA astronaut Reed Wiseman and the Capcom, or capsule communicator, here in Mission Control, discussing some of the final activities on their timeline for the day before they head into pre-sleep and get ready to close out Flight Day 6. So during the flyby period, the Artemis crew and in its Orion spacecraft reached a farthest distance from Earth at 252,756 miles, which was 4,112 miles farther than Apollo 13. And a couple minutes prior to that farthest distance milestone, Orion also made its closest approach to the moon at a distance of 4,067 miles. And at the end of the lunar flyby period, the crew was also able to see an eclipse with the sun hidden from view behind the opposite side of the moon from the perspective of Orion. And during this time, the crew saw a mostly dark moon, and the crew also used the opportunity to analyze the solar corona, which is the sun's outermost atmosphere. And once the sun was completely out of view behind the moon, the crew observed impact flashes, which are flashes of light from meteoroids striking the surface, and some deep space targets, including planets such as the Mars, Venus, and Saturn. The crew's observations during this flyby, along with handheld photography and images from the Orion spacecraft, will form the basis for scientific investigations into the moon's geologic history, the lunar environment, and current processes such as new impacts. At this point in the Artemis II mission, the crew and the teams on the ground have begun or completed 23 of the 27 high-priority objectives for the mission, providing a tremendous insight into the operation of the Orion spacecraft and critical information as we prepare for future Artemis missions. Now that the lunar flyby observation period has concluded, along with the public affairs events that followed with President Donald Trump and NASA Administrator Jared Isaacman, we are going to wrap our broadcast coverage on NASA Plus. Thank you to everyone who tuned into our coverage on NASA Plus, as well as through our streaming partners on Peacock, Netflix, Amazon Prime, and HBO Max. While our NASA Plus coverage is concluding, our 24/7 continuous coverage will continue on NASA's YouTube page, so you can continue to follow our Artemis II crew on their return journey back to Earth. This is Mission Control Houston.
Houston Integrity, we have a science question.
We are ready to copy.
We just want to check our understanding before we go to bed, because we think we made some changes, but the procedures, were not updated as expected. We no longer have to transfer any of the audio recordings on our PCDs or any notes we made in OneNote. That you will just go into the applicable locations and pull that stuff down from where they are originally created.
That is a good recollection, Jeremy. That is correct.
Okay, so we are transferring photos into 4 science folders on all 3 PCDs. And if you go into those 4 science folders, you'll get all of the imagery that we took today. And just a heads up, just so much excitement up here. Sometimes we switch cards and sometimes we didn't. And so the different shifts are on various cards in various places, but all the photos are there.
Copy all. Thanks for the report.
This is Artemis Mission Control in Houston, Texas. We're currently 5 days, 4 hours, and 52 minutes into the Artemis 2 mission. You just heard some call down from the crew on board the Orion spacecraft, and you can see a live view of the exterior of that Orion spacecraft there on your screen. They are working to downlink some of the imagery that they captured throughout the lunar flyby today. And here shortly, they are also going to wrap up some of the final activities for the day, which includes a private medical conference with their medical teams here on the ground, as well as a private conference with the flight director here on the ground to go through vehicle status and any questions, comments, concerns they may have ahead of the next flight day. After those private conferences are complete, they will then enter their pre-sleep period. During this pre-sleep period, the crew has about 2.5 hours to decompress for the day. They can also complete any necessary personal activities and hygiene activities, and it's also when they have an opportunity to eat their dinner. The meals provided to the crew throughout the mission are from the Space Food Systems Laboratory here in Houston, Texas. That team works closely with every human spaceflight crew, both on the Artemis missions as well as missions to the International Space Station ahead of launch, to taste their food and go through their standard menus and what they will expect, as well as some training on how to use the food warmers, as well as how to rehydrate some of that food. Some of the food that the crew may be eating for dinner tonight includes chicken with corn and black beans, sweet and sour pork, rice pilaf, spicy green beans, citrus fruit salad, maple cream cookies, as well as shrimp cocktail, Turkish fish stew, Caribbean chicken, mashed potatoes, cauliflower with cheese and butter cookies.
Integrity Houston, OE2 is configured for your conference with Mr. Radigan.
This is Artemis Mission Control. You are currently seeing a live view of the Orion spacecraft. This view coming to you from one of the 4 solar array wings, or SAWs. They each have cameras mounted to them that provide these live views. And in the distance, you can see a crescent Earth. That, of course, is now the destination for the Orion spacecraft and its crew, now that we are on the return journey leg of the mission following today's lunar flyby. We are targeting a splashdown in the Pacific Ocean off the coast of California on Friday, April 10th. That splashdown will take place in about 3 days, 20 hours, and 13 minutes. The crew is wrapping up their 6th flight day. They are currently in a privatized conference with the flight director here in Mission Control. They typically have a private conference at the end of every flight day. Following this, they will have a brief private conference with their medical teams here on the ground, and then they will head into their pre-sleep period. And that will wrap up their 6th flight day as part of the Artemis II mission. Going into the 7th flight day, they will have quite a bit of time off duty, but they will complete a post-lunar flyby conference. During this time, they will have the opportunity to discuss their lunar flyby observations with the science team on the ground, while some of that is still fresh and top of mind. And then a little bit later in the day, there is the opportunity for a RTC-1 burn. This is a return trajectory correction burn, should it be needed, and it will allow, it would be a short thruster firing to allow the Orion spacecraft to fine-tune its trajectory on the return leg. And then in the second half of the day, they will work on a radiation sheltering demonstration. During that radiation shelter demonstration, the crew will build a radiation shelter within the cabin of the Orion spacecraft and prepare lockers for radiation shelter ingress or entering into them. On missions to the moon through the Artemis program, astronauts venture beyond Earth's protective magnetic field. The Orion spacecraft serves as the main protection against the sun's intense power. And NASA has radiation dosage level thresholds that they look for inside Orion. The first threshold signals a caution, prompting closer monitoring and coordination with medical and flight operations team. And then a higher threshold triggers a recommendation for the crew to take shelter. Radiation shielding in space is all about mass. Charged particles are slowed and absorbed as they pass through matter, so astronauts are trained to reconfigure their cabin during a solar particle event, removing stowed equipment from storage bays and securing it along areas of the cabin to add mass between themselves and incoming particles. Since Artemis II is the first crewed Artemis mission, testing this procedure in the Orion spacecraft is a major objective of the mission. This is Artemis Mission Control in Houston, Texas. We are currently 5 days, 5 hours, and 19 minutes into the Artemis 2 mission and counting. Currently on your screen, you can see a live view from the Orion spacecraft named Integrity by its crew. You can see a clear view of one of those solar array wings. There are 4 solar array wings, or SAW, that provide power generation for the Orion spacecraft, and just above that solar array wing, you can see a crescent Earth. Currently, the Orion spacecraft is about 11,900 miles away from the moon, and that distance will continue to increase now that we are on the return leg of the journey. The Orion spacecraft and its crew had their lunar flyby and made their closest approach to the moon earlier today, and the distance from Earth is about 249,000 miles. We are expecting a splashdown on Friday, April 10th, on Flight Day 10. That splashdown in the Pacific Ocean off the coast of California in about 3 days, 19 hours, and 57 minutes from now. Currently, the crew is wrapping up some of the final activities for the day, and then they are about to enter their pre-sleep period. That pre-sleep period will last about 2.5 hours, after which they will go to sleep. They typically have an 8.5-hour sleep period, and then they will begin Flight Day 7. The majority of Flight Day 7 will be an off-duty day for the crew, but they do still have a few items that they have to complete. One of those is a post-lunar flyby conference, and this will be directly with the crew and the science team here on the ground to discuss some of their lunar flyby observations as part of the data collection to allow the crew to talk through what they experienced and what they saw while it's still top of mind and fresh following today's lunar flyby observation period. Again, that lunar flyby lasted about 7 hours, and towards the tail end of that flyby, they did get to experience an eclipse. Following that post-lunar flyby conference, the crew will have a little bit of a break. They will be able to exercise, have their midday meal, and then there is the opportunity for a return trajectory correction 1 burn should it be needed. These return trajectory correction burns allow the Orion spacecraft to fine-tune its path on the way back to Earth. On the outbound journey, there were originally 3 planned outbound trajectory correction burns. The first 2 of those burns ended up being canceled as it was determined they were not needed due to the accuracy of the translunar injection burn, or TLI burn, which took place on Flight Day 2. The third and final of those outbound trajectory correction burns did take place on Flight Day 5. And it ended up being a 17.5-second burn to fine-tune Orion's trajectory as it made its flyby around the moon. So again, there will be an opportunity for a return trajectory correction burn tomorrow should it be needed. And then in the latter half of their Flight Day 7, they will complete a radiation shelter demonstration. This is Artemis Mission Control in Houston, Texas. Currently on your screen, you can see a live view of the Orion spacecraft on the left-hand side. Those views coming to you from the solar array wing cameras. The crew is currently in their pre-sleep period. During this period, they have the opportunity to eat dinner and also perform any necessary hygiene activities and other personal activities ahead of going to sleep. We do expect the crew to enter their sleep period in a little under 2 hours, about an hour and 45 minutes from now. Also in that view on the left-hand side, you can see a crescent Earth in the distance, just above that solar array wing. The right-hand side of your screen shows a visualization from the Artemis Real-Time Orbit website, or ARROW. This website is available at nasa.gov/track-Artemis for the duration of the Artemis II mission and provides updates on the spacecraft's velocity as well as its distance from the Earth and the Moon as it makes its journey back home here to Earth, again with that splashdown targeted for Friday, April 10th. Following a lunar flyby observation period of about 7 hours earlier today, the crew then worked to clean up some of their observations as well as the imagery and data that they captured and collected and began downlinking that. And we do expect to have some of that imagery available here shortly. During the Artemis II lunar flyby, the crew collected 3 primary science data sets, which included images, verbal descriptions, and written annotations to be able to provide scientists with multiple layers of context for each observation. The handheld imagery was captured using Nikon cameras, including an 80 to 400 millimeter zoom lens dedicated to lunar targeting. And those images were designed to capture regional context and relationships among large geologic features rather than fine surface detail. And then the verbal descriptions were the highest priority science data set on Artemis II. The astronauts recorded real-time observations through a dedicated application on their crew tablets, which are sometimes referred to as PCDs or portable computing devices. Through those verbal descriptions, they were describing what they were seeing, how the features related spatially, and how conditions were changing as the lighting evolved. And then the crew annotations were recorded in OneNote.
We are complete with the conference on too. You can normalize that. Thank you.
In work. Thanks.
And Houston Integrity, the actorcraft data is on PCD2.
We copy.
Houston Integrity on 1 for imagery for downlink folders.
Go ahead.
Hey, on PCD1, I have noticed I have 2 imagery for downlink folders, and I have been using both of them today. One is on the C drive, and one is in C users CDR desktop imagery for downlink. So when they're downlinking from PCD1, please have them check both folders, and then after, it looks like there was an alias placed on my desktop, and that has caused that confusion. So likely my fault, don't recall. But if they could please check both the C drive imagery for downlink and then my login imagery for downlink on PCD1, I would appreciate it.
We copy.
And we just heard some communication there between the crew on board the Orion spacecraft. Some of that first communication was coming from NASA astronaut Victor Glover, who was wrapping up a crew preference conference. These are private conferences, often between the crew and their family and friends on the ground. And then we heard some communication after that from NASA astronaut Reed Wiseman, who was asking some questions and letting them know about some images and data that were being downlinked from the Orion spacecraft following the lunar flyby earlier today. During the lunar flyby, in addition to the images and verbal descriptions and written annotations that the crew was collecting, the Orion spacecraft's vehicle-mounted cameras also supplemented the crew's observations by providing high-resolution still imagery and lower-resolution video before, during, and after the flyby from perspectives unavailable inside the Orion spacecraft itself. In preparation for the lunar flyby and the Artemis II mission, the Artemis II astronauts underwent extensive lunar science training, including classroom instruction, field work, and high-fidelity simulations. They had training expeditions that took place in analog environments, such as the Icelandic highlands, where crews practiced identifying and describing geologic features under varying conditions. And then Orion mock-ups were also used to rehearse crew choreography, including three-dimensional space management with an inflatable moon globe to simulate the flyby.